Hi, thanks for joining a new video. Today we unbox Xiaomi 15 Trillions Pro and 15 Trillions. Let's begin. These devices have just been presented in Munich. The price of the most basic model starts from 649 euros, while the price of the simplest configuration of the Pro model is 799 euros. On the screen you saw the reference prices in Mexican pesos, just to give you an idea, but remember that the prices here are not the same as over there. Later on they will surely make their announcement in this region. At the moment they have been introduced specifically for Europe. Let's take a look at what we have over here in this box. Both devices come with packaging that is quite similar. First, we encounter an envelope box. We can already guess that it contains paper slips, something that lasts a lifetime. But take note, each device has its own unique sticker. The manufacturer uses this to highlight some of the more appealing features. In just a moment, we'll take a closer look at these attractive points. Detail. But we are going to remove these protective plastics so that we can... It does not have any type of transparency, but it is completely flexible. We are going to activate the Pro model while simultaneously removing the protective covering from the base model, and at the same time we will also power on this device. Then, as we complete the power-up process, we will thoroughly inspect the contents of this box, where we discover the key necessary to remove the tray. As expected, there is paper and a case, which in this particular instance, take note, is solidly padded. It lacks transparency, but it is entirely flexible. And precisely the same thing we will observe for the base model. I emphasize, the contents inside the box are precisely identical. In fact, the design is quite similar, although there is a slight difference on the right side of the camera module. Now let's go ahead and take off this decal that is on this device, which is already hinting at its design in a somewhat brownish shade. And now let's remove the decal from the other device, which in this instance appears to be in a silver color, I believe. In fact, you can already notice the polish that appears on the outline of the camera, which actually looks quite nice and sleek. However, let's go ahead and put this case on, and then you can tell me how you prefer this device, whether with the case or without one. Personally, I feel that the case being black takes away quite a bit from the aesthetics. If it were a solid color, I would choose to use it without a case. However, I'd love to hear how you would use them. Now, let's check out what else is inside the box. You'll find the 90 watts charger included with this Pro model, which features a USB-A connection. It is still something we have insisted on. I think they should already have USB-C. Note that the cable comes with this interior coloration in orange for easy identification. The original cable, as you need to use the original accessories for maximum power. On the base model, the charge is reduced to 67 watts. Fortunately, the chargers are included, at least in these units we have for review, because sometimes it varies depending on other regions, but the cable is exactly the same in both models. Those are essentially the box contents. Let's clear this away to focus on the devices and quickly review their specs. And well, here we have the devices ready to meet them. So we have the Xiaomi 15T Pro on this side with this mocha gold color, and the Xiaomi 15 on the other side with this gray color, although because of the lighting conditions in which we are recording, it suddenly looks a bit brown as well. Xiaomi 15T Pro has a thickness of 796 millimeters, while the base model is reduced to 75 millimeters. It's clear that Xiaomi is somehow joining this trend of thin phones. The Pro model weighs 210 grams and the base model is 194 grams. Both have IP68 ruggedness. And we find Gorilla Glass line protection for the screen on the Pro model. I would have liked to see a higher level of protection, while on the back we find fiberglass as a material. The screen will be very similar. It is 683 inches. In its diagonal, we find AMOLED technology, 30,200 nits as peak maximum brightness and a very high resolution of 2,772 x 1,280 pixels, reaching a density of 447 pixels per inch. The key difference will be in the refresh rate, which in the Pro model is 144 Hz, while in the base model remains at 120 Hz, which either way is still pretty good, but as you see, they share in diagonal, they share technology. Both are compatible with HDR and Dolby Vision. They are really very good screens. The front camera on both models is 32 megapixels with f2.2 aperture and fixed focus. Let's take a look at the results, for example, of the Pro. You see that in the preview it is quite burned out, but the process picture looks with a better dynamic range. Note that in this case we are talking about a wide camera. On the back, both models will have 15mm ultra-wide camera with f2.2 aperture and a 12-megapixel sensor in the Pro model. Then we will find the main camera of 23mm with f-aperture, 1.62 optical stabilization and 50 megapixels. And finally, the camera they've dubbed the Leica Super Telephoto 115mm camera with f3.0 aperture, optical stabilization and 50 megapixels. And then we have some additional sensors to complete this grid. So as you see, we have a wide enough range. Xiaomi calls it 15 to 115 millimeters in its focal lengths. Obviously, in the 2x setting, we will find optical quality still with a crop inside the sensor. You can crop inside the telephoto sensor for up to 10 times with optical quality. Let's see examples. Here's the ultra-wide camera. It looks nice. Xiaomi and Leica Sumi Lux lenses minimize chromatic aberration well. Now see the 23mm camera. It looks nice and similar in color to the main camera. Following that, it provides you with a 28mm crop and also a 35mm crop. As you can see, in all these crops, it maintains excellent image resolution. Next, the 46mm crop, which would be equivalent to a 2x digital zoom, still maintains optical quality and looks fantastic. We then move to the 115mm lens, which performs well in these lighting conditions. Even though it was a cloudy day, the backlight was quite pronounced, and I think it delivered a good result. And note how the 230mm crop also looks excellent quality. It's a device that can compete perfectly well in its daytime photographic system. Here's another one that's 690mm plus or minus 30x digital zoom, and I think it's obvious that it's digital zoom, but it still looks well controlled. I would think this would be the maximum where it still maintains good quality. In this case, it lets you zoom up to 2300nm or 100x digital zoom, though it feels forced. The base model has the same ultra-wide camera, but the main camera has a 50-megapixel sensor using Light Fusion 800, unlike the Pro model with Light Fusion 900. The aperture is slightly more closed at f1.7, but still has optical stabilization. But the telephoto camera falls a little short because it's 46mm with 50-megapixel sensor, f1.9 aperture and no optical stabilization. So it's curious that they decided to put a 2x telephoto camera, considering that usually 2x can be obtained perfectly by cropping the main sensor. So I would have liked to have seen at least 5x or 3x. For some reason, they have decided to go with this lens, which is not that spectacular in terms of its optical zoom. But let's see some examples now captured with the camera of this Xiaomi 15T. Watch again the ultra-wide camera. We already saw that it is exactly the same as in the Pro model. Now you're looking at the main camera, which I think looks pretty good. Again, you're seeing different 28 and 35mm crops that maintain good contrast, and I like that overall they maintain a very similar coloration between all the cameras. And now we make the jump to the 46mm camera, which I insist I would have liked to see. A little farther distance in the optical zoom. In this case, it offers us a 92mm crop, although I must say that the image lost a bit of contrast, but in terms of level of detail it still looks pretty good. In this, what would be 4x digital zoom still maintains optical quality. See, for example, how it would look with 115mm, that would be more or less 5x digital zoom, and in 230mm, which is 10x digital zoom, I feel it falls a bit short. The telephoto camera on this base model wasn't impressive. Even though it reaches 1380mm, the zoom feels too exaggerated and forced, making it less ideal for photos. On the Pro model, video recording supports up to 4K at 30 frames per second with the main camera, and you can also record in 4K at 120 frames per second for slow motion. High resolution, but just with the main camera. The battery will be 5500 mAh in both models, with 67 watts of charging for the base model and 90 watts via cable for the Pro model, which also supports 50 watts of wireless charging. This is another significant difference from the base model. These devices debut HyperOS 3.0, which theoretically should be much improved not only in aesthetics but also in functionality. Although these devices are pre-release, they still don't have the update, but they will receive it before they are launched. At the same time, the Pro model includes the same suite of artificial intelligence tools we have seen in other models. These have proven effective with writing tools and photo editing. They also provide summaries of your recordings and translations during conversations. Among other tools available in both models, In performance, we will find differences. The Pro model has versions of 256 or 512 GB. There is even a 1 TB option that will surely be only for some markets in the 3 configurations with 12 GB of memory. RAM, and don't forget, always remember that it also serves the function. The RAM expansion feature is configured with 6 GB by default. However, as you might know, virtual RAM doesn't add much value when you already have a significant amount of physical RAM available. The base model is available in 256 or 512 GB versions, just like the Pro model, which has 12 GB of RAM and the same virtual RAM option. In the Pro model, we have the MediaTek Dimensity 9400 processor, a truly powerful processor. But if benchmarks are what you're interested in Geekbench it scores 2540 for single-core and 7928 for multi-core, showing it's indeed a very powerful processor. Meanwhile, in Antutu it scored 2.7,841 points, proving it's a complete beast in terms of performance. The base model is equipped with the MediaTek Dimensity 8400 Ultra, which is also excellent, although not quite as advanced and powerful. Let's discuss benchmarks. 1612 in single-core, 6,224 in multi-core on Geekbench, and 19,43,141 on Antutu. Good power, especially for mid-range, while the Pro is near high-end. Both can be competitive depending on market pricing. Something novel is that they come with Xiaomi offline communication, which allows you to make a kind of calls between the same devices, even without cellular network signal, at a distance of almost 2 kilometers in the Pro model and a 1.3 kilometers in the base Modelo. You don't need to have Wi-Fi either, so it's an interesting and novel feature. But hey, this was just a first glimpse of these devices. I want to remind you that we will soon have the complete review. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can let us know, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching this content. The best way to support my work is by watching, commenting, and sharing, so a big thank you to everyone who does this. If you wish to support my content in another way, you can join the members using the link I have provided in the description. There are a few levels available. If you choose the fan of the account level, your name will be featured in the end credits of my news section. However, if you opt for the partner of the recount level, your name will be mentioned at the beginning and you'll get priority access to the recount as soon as the editing is complete. And lastly, you can select the all access level, which not only includes the previous benefits but also provides early access to unboxings, reviews, and other videos immediately when they are ready. Once we finish editing the videos, I'll provide you with access to them. Additionally, you'll gain access to travel blogs, behind-the-scenes content, and bloopers. Thanks a lot for your support.